much as I thought I could plan a podcast, that is not going to happen. I do not have the mindset to sit here. Chop up block for block how I'm going to tell you about weight loss and weight gain. Good evening on this Wednesday, January 26, 2022. The time is 11:24 p.m. and welcome to Early in the a.m. with Isha. Winding down, ending the day, and I'm going to rattle some of my thoughts off, some of my opinions, and then I'm going to be on with it. Get to sleep so I can wake up tomorrow. Hopefully do it all over again, God willing. Drug abuse. Is drug abuse my business at all? Am I affected by it? Sure. Okay, we can play this game today. Lucky for me, I say lucky because not everybody is as lucky. Some people, they have bad trips with drugs, but it doesn't deter them from the drug lifestyle. Because that's what it is. They grow on you. First, it's just a physical drug. And then the more you ingest it, the more of your life you invest into it. And then using drugs becomes a lifestyle. It becomes a certain dynamic. It becomes the clothes you wear. It becomes the food you eat, the people you hang out with, the temperament of your day, the manner in which you interact with others, if you at all, how you treat animals, money, work, all those things. Some people, a bad trip means nothing to them. If somebody has a bad trip after using a drug, they may treat it as, this trip that messed up my morning. I'm just going to go on and try it again in a couple hours with somebody else. And hopefully so-and-so get their stuff together. And I won't experience these bad trips from my hard-earned money. But for me, a bad trip ruined the entire euphoria. For me, if you ruin the emotional experience for me, you have a very hard time of getting me back. There's only so many experiences I could have, especially on any front, because what you want to do is escape reality, but I don't want to escape reality for a nightmare. I can have nightmares without even trying. There's nightmares waiting on every corner. You don't even have to try for one of those. But what dismissed me from it, besides the little, little happiness or the little energy I brought into it, was spent very fast. And once the fear took over, it was like a wildfire. If an ounce of my fear gets into anything, and if I can't check it right away, it spreads like a wildfire. Then I end up being afraid of anything. At the drop of a dime, and I slowly back out of it if I don't abandon it at all. It becomes, for me anyway, a means to run away from the black wave, I call it. The black wave is when it's the backdrop of the backdrop of the world behind whatever it is I'm doing. Like if I'm hanging out with either some new people or people I know and we're doing drugs, the black wave is the peak of the backdrop right behind the situation. It's everything right behind you. It's not really what's going on between us in the moment, because I'm kind of in and out the conversations, but I don't know if people notice that, but I tend to fall into this backdrop where I get a little lost in the silence, and I become more engulfed in the serious expansion of space around the people than the conversation going on within the people themselves. Drugs does that. If drug use pushes me out of the conversation and it pulls me away from you, 10 times out of 10, I'm going to have to make a choice. I'm either going to choose to be around you or I'm going to choose the drug. And if, believe me, I love talking to people more than I love talking to myself. As much as I do it, now it's just an addiction. I have to do it. It's my life source. But I ended up choosing people. I chose the smiling face when they look at you. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where someone you respect looks at you disfavorably. I can't tolerate that. I can't tolerate it. I refuse to tolerate it. It's one thing if you just don't have the money or the clothes to keep up with a certain celebrity that drugs put you to, because what it does is it enhances your aura, so you feel like you're glamorous and you're popular, or you feel like you're numb to the experience. And that's one thing. But if those drugs push me enough to believe it, and then I'm out in public pretending so hard in it that people look at me disfavorably, that's the question. That's the question. There's one thing: you're not supposed to care what people think. You're not supposed to care what people think if you're on your A game or even your B game. I mean, you can have flaws, but you're doing the best you can and you're putting your best foot forward. That is the only time you're not supposed to care what people think. If you out here messing up intentionally and putting your not so best foot forward, your intentionally worst foot forward, I think you should care what people think at that point in place and time. It's nothing worse than, coming out of your zone to go visit someone else, and you're bringing your drugs and your problems and your smells and everything, and they're trying to help you and deal with you, but you're not giving them nothing to work with. I don't have much, I can even, I'll take everything I have and I'll come to your office and I say, okay, I can do this or I can do that. But I'm not going to bring drugs into that culture. I just already know what it does. I've already lost a parent to drug use. And I have a sibling strung out on drugs. He's not too far gone, but he's in there. What do you think? How far do you think I'm going to keep bending to that break? How much of a break do I have left? I already have spent too much of my personal self helping out family members. I don't know what they would need from me, whether it's some type of, I can't even explain it. Trying to go into it is a headache, so I just don't. It's so tedious, it's so crazy that even looking at Tylenol the wrong way feels illegal. Like looking at Tylenol too long, I'll just take the pain. I don't even want to think about being addicted to anything. It gets to that point sometimes. And somebody who was crying to get into Hollywood for a short time in my life, I had to learn that a lot of, 90% of it is smoke and mirrors. And most of them, they do some type of a drug to keep themselves motivated because there's really nothing else besides the money and the fame and the power. And even if you're in it for the artistry, the best in it are at the lower levels. They're in the Broadway plays, or they're in certain things where they're so much about the craft that they kind of disappear behind the veil. You really don't see them unless you physically go to Broadway plays, or you go and you follow these circuits around, and you see these people in their raw natural talent. Where there's just no CGI, it's just them in a stage and their natural voice or athleticism or just their ability to portray emotions and different characters. I mean, that's what drugs do. Drugs pull people and then they slowly go inside and they just erode those characteristics away. They do all the work for them. It's like they just let me do the work, and then they just destroy all of this and that. And they leave these people just running and going and coming and going all day and all night. I don't. That's just how I feel about it. It's a scary thing. The thing is, I don't mind a little marijuana. I don't. It's a social thing. I don't do it, but I've done it before. And socially, I'll split like a joint between me and a couple of friends, but believe me, it is social and it's very low. Nobody's out doing this all day and all night. You know what I mean? It's just, one joint between four friends. You get a little buzz. You get your kiki on, and that's it. There's nothingness to it that I just can't get with anymore. Saddens me, but it's the truth. And I have to be the bully in this situation. Drugs is something where you can't be one way or the other. Somebody has to be the bully. Somebody has to get bullied. That's just how it is. That is just one thing I've learned in just being a stand-up person. If you stand up for anything, even when you get confused, a lot of times, I stand up and I know it's the same thing I'm standing up for, but I be confused. I'm like, what exactly am I standing up against this for? It has nothing to do with what I believe in. And it doesn't. But you just have to keep asserting whatever energy that's challenging you, that this is what I stand for, this is what I don't stand for. Even if they have no idea why they're challenging. I'm challenging you to wear a red shirt today. I told you I was celibate. Like, the two fights don't equal. But it's just two energies, approaching one. I understand you have a strong energy about you, and I want to use your energy to make my energy stronger. I was like, do understand. That is, there's confusion in that can be very damaging. If you're challenging my energy, that's one thing. If you're saying, I want to use your energy to make me stronger. If that strength you're talking about is to be stronger in your drug use, you can't use my energy for that. Why are you going to challenge the very thing I stand for and praise God for, to empower the very thing that broke my heart so many times? I can't even think straight. I'm not going to think straight about it. I'm not going to. It's just about standing up for something. Even in your week, you can have the standing up. I don't think it has much to do with your foundation as people believe it does. Some people who can barely stand, who stand up stronger than anything. With a raised fist, they mean so much. And their very foundations can be crumbling. They can't take 2 steps without falling down. But if you give them something solid where they can hold their head up long enough, and the most powerful wisdom will spill from their mouth. They've been tested by the world. Their body's been thrashed to ashes. For any goddamn thing. Standing up against the wrong for any goddamn body. Saying, I denounce racism, blah, you get destroyed. I denounce this. I denounce drug dealers. I denounce racism. And I denounce terrorism. And I denounce fornication on this level and that level. And I denounce people who don't respect my beliefs. And you say, I'm standing for all these things. And it's just words until the actual point you're making has to take up residence in your being. When that chaos must be recognized and realized. And then the proof comes out of the chaos because there's an address to it and it's addressed. After that person comes out of that woodwork, you will see a different person. You will see a different being, whether or not that person wants to. Holding on to your beliefs will destroy you from top. It can destroy you from top to bottom, I should say, depending on the forces that are against what you believe. I never thought standing up for something would be so hard or so cowardly. Or you think it's cowardly, but you don't want to spend everything you have. Like, fighting an enemy on certain things can be so taxing. It can be so painful and wasteful and vindictive and vengeful and revengeful. And you name it. It can be all these things. It can be all these, like, you're thinking it's coming out roses because on the inside you stopped. You stopped doing the act. But the enemy isn't done challenging you. I mean, they'll waste your life. They'll do things that waste your time. They'll try to destroy your focus, or they'll hide in places and purposely jump out at the wrong time. They'll infiltrate your job and destroy your finances. Anything to destroy you in one way. They might, if they think they've lost you in one way, they'll destroy you in another.